Hello Guardians, it is Ebontis here. It is July 7th and Destiny 2 has a new exotic weapon to go after and a new exotic quest to go with it. So the gun is Ruinous Effigy. It's a pretty cool actual void trace rifle with a pretty awesome actual effect to it, which I'll kind of show you guys a little sneak towards the end. But I want to go through the progression steps to actually acquire the weapon and give you a few tips that I kind of struggled through so you guys don't have to along the way. So here we go. First thing that you're going to need to do is you're going to need to go to the Prismatic Recaster and you're going to pick up two things. You're going to have the Means to an End quest that you always have every week, and you're also going to have this new one called Growth. Now the Growth asks you to complete the Interference mission on Io. To do that, you have to go through the Means to an End quest of doing the Contact Public event, which is now on Titan, probably be there for a little while. If it's moved planets, usually probably not that hard to find. Go through that, and at least usually always seems to be done twice if you do it on Heroic. And then when you're done with that, you have to go through and find all the Umbral traces. Now, the week that I'm recording this video, it's where you have the option of Escalation Protocol, Gambit Prime, or Reckoning. Now, I did Reckoning before and seemed to go a little bit faster. Either way, it's totally your preference on where you do it. I think Escalation Protocol is probably the slowest one because you seem to only get the Umbral Essence on the wave finishes, and even for doing all 7 waves, you don't seem to get that much. If you do a Tier 1 Reckoning, it seems to be a pretty easy thing to manage. It's match made, and it's not an overly, high difficulty thing that you've got to do. Main thing that you want to focus on there is making sure you get a good tag of damage on the boss, the big boss towards the end, and then try and tag any of the other boss enemies that spawn throughout the encounter. Sometimes there's some in the front, the back, or the sides. Anything with that yellow bar, try and tag it with just a little bit of energy so you can get the essence to drop from that. Otherwise, use abilities in whatever you're killing. You might get a few extra essence of that. And then when you're done with the Means to an End, it's going to ask you to go do Interference. So you get to do 2 birds with 1 stone. Now, once you're done with the Interference mission, we're on to Step 2. Alright, so Step 2 has 2 pieces to it. One is defeating 15 Savathun's Marionettes. I'll explain that one in just a second. If you want to jump ahead, you can. I've got time steps set up all throughout this thing. But the first piece is 25 Calcified Light Fragments. Now, they are on 4 planets: Io, Titan, Mars, and Mercury. There are 10 on Io, so you'll find the most there. Then you've got Titan, Mars, and Mercury, where you're going to find 5. Now, I'm going to put up a separate video that goes live at about the same time this one does. That's going to have the kind of visual locations so you guys can see where each one of them are. A couple of them are going to be a little bit hidden. Even if you can see the icon on your screen, you may not know exactly how to get there. So hopefully that one helps. So I'm going to have that down below in the description. I'm also going to have a card up here right about now. If you want to click on that one, that will take you straight to that video so you can see that one. If you go all the way through those steps, then you can come back to this one, get back to the rest of it. But the idea is, let me pull up the IO map screen and show you a general idea if you just want to try and search for them yourself. So the most of these are going to be on IO, hence why I'm going to start here. Now, if you take the Rupture for the example, when you load into the landing zone, you're going to have a couple in that area. I think it's 3 total. Now, as soon as you load in, if you pull up your Ghost, and you look up towards the top of the Pyramidion, kind of the big triangle, it's where you enter the strike. If you look up towards that direction, towards the top, you're probably going to see a little icon, and it's actually got a distance icon on it. So one of those little calcified fragments is going to be a top where one of the random patrols would actually take you all the way up to the top. So from your starting location, you'll be able to see that one. But you won't be able to see everything within the Rupture, because some are a little bit farther away. Now, they're not overly, buried in locations. If you look at the Lost Oasis, you're not going to have to go into the Wraith Mines to find one. They're going to be very close to the named landing zone locations. So, the Rupture is going to have some, Lost Oasis is going to have some, Giant Scar is going to have some, but I'm not going to have to go into Excavation Site 2 way over here in this kind of separate little, buried cave region or whatever to find any. If they are not out in the open area, they're probably going to be off in little caves of the main area. They're not going to be too buried, so don't go wandering all the way down the path towards the Endless Gate way down here off the map. You've gone too far. Now for the Rupture, as I said, one is pretty close to the beginning right here. If you look up, you'll probably see it towards the top of the triangle of the Pyramidion. But there's 2 over here on the Rupture side. One's buried in a cave that's kind of underground, and the entrance may not be the most obvious to find, but you'll find it. The other one looks like it's in Affix Conduit. It might be, but it's actually not. It's in a cave right next to it. So a couple rules. It's going to be usually right along the, either within the confines of the border of a named zone. It will not be in a lost sector. It is not going to be in another named zone that takes you very far off of the landing zone, area. And while they may look like they're through walls, there's usually a cave that you have to find an entrance to go dig into it. So again, if you need the video that shows you where all of those are, that's going to be below in the description. Otherwise, let's talk about the Marionettes. Alright, so you found all 25 calcified fragments. Now you want to kill 15 Savathun's Marionettes. Now, the Marionettes are going to be enemies that spawn in a zone, and they can be in any of the zones on both Titan and Io, but I had the best luck in the Rupture, which I'll kind of cover in a second here. But you're going to have usually a little indicator on screen of text saying, hey, this weird named enemy has spawned, and somewhere in that zone, you're going to be able to find them. Now, typically, I've seen a couple different types. You're going to have a large, very large, taken ogre, spawns with a couple other enemies. There's going to be a marionette. I think it's usually a hobgoblin, spawns right there with it. That one's usually pretty easy to kill. Second, you're going to have a blight that spawns somewhere in the zone, usually only in a couple of places, and you're going to have an enemy that is shielded and won't be able to be damaged until the ball within that little blight sphere is destroyed. Once that's destroyed, you can put some damage into it. It's going to be spawning a couple ogres as you go through, but it's usually overall not too bad. Once you kill that enemy, then there's going to be a few more enemies that spawn. That's when the Marionette's going to spawn. It's going to be one of the Cabal that walks around with a shield, and when you kill that one, that will count. Finally, you're going to have a third set, and there may be one more that I'm missing, but these are at least the three I know off the top of my head, so should give me an idea how these work. There's 2 knights that spawn that are shielded. Now, they're usually a little bit farther apart. The idea is you have to get them close together to be able to do damage to them. So if they're far apart, they're going to stay immune. You have to try and stand between them, get them both to kind of walk to you, and sometimes it's a pain in the butt, I'll be honest. But once they're close enough together, both of their shields drop. You need to try and just focus as much damage as you can on one of them. So things like swords are really beneficial. Heavy is going to be a good thing. Don't try anything like grenades or rocket launchers. Not really a good idea. Machine guns or swords, anything you can use up close to try and do damage to them. Grenades, supers, stuff like that's a good thing to do. When you kill one of them, the other one might get his shield back for a little bit, but then it will go away again, and you can kill both of those. Once those 2 knights are gone, then again, another small group of enemies are going to spawn. The Marionette's going to be in there. So usually you're going to have to kill some enemies to get the Marionette to spawn, like usually the second set of enemies. Sometimes it actually just spawns with a big group. And the idea is, if I'm on the Rupture, and I use the Rupture mainly because that's where I killed most all of mine, probably 13 out of 15, if not more. Now, there's a lot of places they can spawn on the Rupture. Maybe that's a good reason they were on a pretty decently timed rotation. You may have better luck in another zone. Again, they can be on any of the main zones, but they're not going to be buried in a lost sector. Again, they'll just be in the main patrol zones, the Rupture, Lost Oasis, and Giant Scar. And then on Titan, you have, Sirens watching the rig. They're going to be on the main patrol zones. They're not going to be buried anywhere. But personally, try the Rupture because there's a lot of places. In the Pyramidian entrance, you'll have that Blight one, kind of up above the pyramid entrance, kind of on the cliffs. You'll have the 2 knights typically spawn. I've seen a couple places where just the big giant ogre spawns. You got to kill him. And I think there may be one more. So there's like 4 or 5 locations that they can spawn, and the Rupture seem to work fairly well. That's my recommendation. If anybody finds like a better way to get those, please comment below, let us all know. But the Rupture seemed to work really well for me, so that's my recommendation because I think I found almost all of them just doing circles around the Rupture, waiting for the little thing to spawn, and then, doing what needs to happen and getting it killed. So that is the 15 Marionettes. Let's move on to step 3. Now, the third step of the growth quest is going to ask you to do 3 different things. You're going to have to complete Gambit or Reckoning matches, or rounds, however you want to call those. You need to get defeat targets with void damage, which is pretty easy to do. Just void across the board, just quite a few of them. And then finally, you need chain precision multi-kills. That one's probably the hardest to do. As you can tell, as I played through some Reckoning, or played through some Gambit, you can tell which seems to be the easiest and the hardest to do. Now, you can do Reckoning. Shout out to Paul Tassi for saying you could fail Tier 3 Reckoning 10 times and finish this step. Now, that's pretty unfortunate that you can do that, but maybe it's like you can still fail it and still get it done, so it's not the hardest thing in the world to do. But you'll notice it says higher tiers of Reckoning and defeating invaders / defeats as an invader grant additional progress. Now, I played Gambit. I took in a weapon I'm comfortable invading with, got a couple kills, tried to hunt down the invader if I could, Had some stuff on that would help drop heavy ammo because I was running Xenophage. You can run Hammerhead. Machine guns work pretty well. Truth, if you like using that one. If you feel comfortable invading, Gambit may actually work a little bit better with the invasions. But still, Gambit worked pretty well for me because there's other things that you can do in there. And especially if you try and do the Reckoning, some of that's going to be easier or harder. Now, the Void kills, you can do anything you want. You can run a Void Super, Nova Bombs, grenades, all that stuff's going to count. But the one thing actually I really focused on trying to do, just to kind of move the precision multi-kill step along, I took a Gnawing Hunger into Gambit and tried to do all three. So I got the Void kills, I was playing through Gambit, and I was working on precision multi-kills. Now, did I get a lot of precision multi-kills in Gambit? Not a ton, and there's a place I'll show you guys in a second that I actually had probably the most success on that part, but it's a way to get some of the progress done, and therefore, you know, move all the steps of this quest along. So once I finished up with Gambit, I was not completely done with the other two steps, both Void kills and precision multi-kills, and what I personally did, you can do this if you want to, what I did is I went to the Mars Lost Sector Core Terminus. Now, the Core Terminus Lost Sector is in the Braytech Futurescape. You land, turn like 10 degrees to your, like maybe 10, 20 degrees to your left, head straight back, and then go down in the tunnel, and you're down in there. Now, what I'm going to do while I'm talking is put a playthrough of the Core Terminus on screen. Now, the main reason I use the Core Terminus Lost Sector is for a couple of things, and I use this Lost Sector for a lot of things, so when it goes away with Beyond Light, I guess I'm going to be kind of sad and have to find a new place to grind, but you're going to have quite a few Acolytes that are really not too hard to kill. They have a decent hitbox on the head, so it's not overly difficult to get a crit. You're also going to have quite a few Thrall that come at you in just kind of streams of Thrall. So if you line them up and just start picking them off in the head, 1 or 2 bullets with, you know, say Gnawing Hunger as an auto rifle, you can line up those precision multi-kills pretty quickly, and the streaks seem to help quite a bit. So as you'll notice when you're going through, you'll have some Acolytes, you'll have a Knight occasionally here and there, but every so often the wave of Thrall that run at you in a couple different places, if you line them up and just go for the heads and be really specific to be particular with your bullets that go for headshots, I actually knocked this out, I had maybe 10, 12% probably, not that much on the precision multi-kills. 2 runs in this Lost Sector, specifically going for headshots on a lot of those Thrall. It knocked it out and it was finished. So it really wasn't too bad. One thing to note is when you get to the boss room, as you do damage to the boss and you do chunks of damage, you're going to have sets of enemies that spawn. Some Acolytes, some Thrall, occasionally Curse Thrall get in there later. But if you don't just completely melt the boss and you do some damage, some enemies respawn on the radar, back up into your little funnel and shoot all those in a line, it actually turns to be a nice place where you can line up the enemies, get quite a few headshots in a row. And if you go in there with, say, a sword, put a few slashes onto the boss, back up a little bit when the enemies spawn, do it all over again, you can get quite a few enemies that funnel into a small, tight corridor, and you can just kind of go headshot, 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 and it worked fairly well. So this is my recommendation. There are probably plenty of other places to do this. You could go to Escalation Protocol. There's a lot of Thrall that spawn there. You could go to the Whisper mission if you don't mind jumping. There's plenty of infinite enemies that spawn down there. It's up to you if you want to jump in there. This one is just literally landing in a loading zone and going to a Lost Sector. So personally quicker than Whisper of the Worm, but that's up to me. And there's probably a couple other places you could do it too. These you can do anywhere. The Void kills and the precision multi-kills, you can do anywhere you feel comfortable doing it. This is just what works for me, so that's my recommendation. Now, the final thing that you're going to need to do once you have your Gambit, Void kills, and your precision multi-kills done, you're basically done. So head back to the Umbral Decoder. It's the little speaker box for Drifter, even though he's standing 2 feet away. Not the prismatic recaster, it's the little box next to it where you decode your Umbral engrams. Go up to that, and it's going to give you the Ruinous Effigy. Now, this is a Void trace rifle, and basically what it does is when you kill an enemy with the Void beam, it's going to drop a little Void orb on the ground, kind of a relic type thing that they call in Destiny. Basically, it's a little thing you can pick up, and you can use it. Now, if you hold block, it's going to have this little bubble. I think it's kind of a shield around you, but it also damages anything in that area. You can light attacks. You just swing the orb and kind of beat stuff up a little bit. But if you do heavy attack, same weapon you'd use to heavy attack with a sword, you actually will dunk, like pick up and slam it into the ground, and you do a pretty powerful explosion. So it's a really fun weapon to use. I'll do a review on it later. There's a way to get the catalyst. I'll cover that as well in a future video. There's other people that may not have that out there, but if you enjoyed this video, drop a like below, subscribe to the channel, hit the alert bell. I will get the video about the catalyst and the way to acquire that and a couple tips on that as well in a separate video. And again, remember, down below for all the calcified fragments, I've got a link to that video. They're both going to go live right about at the same time. And if you want to find me, sometimes I'll be streaming on Twitch, and you can also find me on Twitter, Ebontis, on both of those. Thank you very much. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. Enjoy the new weapon. It's actually quite a bit of fun, and I can see it being very powerful with certain people in a big party using it, so I can see it being a pretty powerful thing going forward. Hopefully you guys enjoy the weapon. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. I'll see you soon. Have a good one. Enjoy your grind, and more videos to come.